Good morning, legal AFers. It's day 19 of the criminal trial in the Manhattan DA's office against Donald Trump. You just have me this morning. We gave Ben the morning off because he got married this weekend and it was his birthday. So we figured he gets the morning off to sleep in a little bit and enjoy himself since he's on the West Coast. So for him, it's 5:30 in the morning right now. So hopefully everybody is wishing Ben just happy thoughts and congratulations on social media because the wedding was just magnificent and it was just incredible to see how happy he is. And he brought his little doggies, Taquito and Chiquito, to the wedding. It was really sweet. Anyway, but let's get to what you all came here to talk about, which is the trial today. This is the kind of, I think some people would say in some ways, the make or break day of the trial, because this is Michael Cohen's continued cross-examination. And then if they finish cross today, there certainly will be a redirect examination to try and figure out and have him explain, I think, an inconsistency that happened on Friday that some people have reported thinks it was a pretty powerful moment in the trial. Now, I wasn't there, so I can't necessarily say what I thought it was like because I've only been able to read the cold transcripts. And what happened on Friday is, in the scheme of all of the different dates and times and meetings and phone calls and text messages and emails and all the other things that surrounded this crime, this case, Michael Cohen got one of them wrong. He made a mistake. And how powerful that will be for the jury is definitely only the jury will know if this is fatal to his credibility. I mean, look, in some ways, Michael Cohen didn't have a lot of wiggle room to get anything wrong because he has a conviction for lying to Congress. He has a federal conviction for he did time for the charges for the underlying conduct in this particular case. So, there's no doubt that a crime occurred here. And when Trump says, oh, the feds looked at this, everybody looked at it, it wasn't a crime, that's not true. Michael Cohen did time for this very crime. So it's not that they looked at it and there wasn't a crime. And when after Friday's reporting, I have to say some of the reporting was quite breathless and talking about how the case is over. Michael Cohen has been caught in a lie. And I felt very deflated on Friday. So I flew out to Ben's wedding in LA because I'm based in New York. And I had 6 hours on the plane each way. And what did I do during those 6 hours? I spent that time looking through the transcripts, going over the evidence, building a timeline. And I'm going to write something. I am writing something. I need to edit it, and I'll hopefully publish it. At some point today, or tomorrow. But I essentially, because I wanted to see for myself, is this fatal if he got it wrong? This was on October 24th, 2016 telephone call that was right in the middle of everything that was going on in terms of the Stormy Daniels, trying to set up the Stormy Daniels payment and trying to make it so that they had a bank account. Essential Consultants was the name of the company, the shell company that he set up for it. And he testified that he called Donald Trump on the 24th through David Schiller, who was his bodyguard, that he texted David Schiller and said, is Trump around so that we can chat about what's going on? And I want to let him know that the whole Stormy thing is all set and just talk to him about Stormy. And that's what he testified about. There was also several other calls and text messages, et cetera, 2 days later, multiple days before. I mean, this wasn't the only call, but it was a call. And there are text messages that led up to that call where where it looks like one of the topics or the only topic of this call that happened seconds after these text messages was about a 14-year-old who was harassing Michael Cohen online. That was what that's what it was about, that it wasn't about Stormy Daniels. Again, I wasn't in court, but according to some people who were in court, it said it felt like a very dramatic gotcha Perry Mason moment where they basically, are going to characterize it as caught him in a lie. And so the rest of cross is going to happen today, and the defense had 3 days to prepare for it. 3 days since this happened on Thursday. I guess it wasn't Friday, because Friday was the day that Donald Trump went to his son's graduation, and so they had all of Friday to continue preparing, and then Saturday and Sunday. Now, Michael Cohen could not and did not speak to the prosecution during those 3 days to get prepped or to figure out what happened. How do I know that? Because that's what the rules are. The rules say once a witness is done with direct examination and they are on cross-examination, the prosecutor can't speak to them. You just can't. So it'll be interesting. I'm sure the prosecution has been thinking about it all weekend, about what they're going to ask about that, and I'm sure the defense has continued to also think about it, and what else they're going to cross-examine him on. I will say, if he makes too many more mistakes, or if he's caught in what the jury could consider aren't mistakes but lies, there's a concept in the law it's a Latin phrase. It's called falsus in uno. It means that if the jury finds that a witness lied about a material fact, they can disregard their entire testimony. And that's something the judge will charge the jury at the end. And so it's pretty powerful. So Michael Cohen doesn't have a lot of room. He didn't have a lot of room to make any mistakes to begin with, like I said, given his credibility issues. But he certainly, now that this happened on Friday, doesn't have any room at all. One of the things I'm looking at in this thing that I'm writing is, how important is Michael Cohen? What if they disregard him altogether? Is there enough still evidence that came out to link Donald Trump to this case? It's sort of interesting to see, and that's the thing that I'm still working on, and why the piece isn't quite ready yet. But one thing I will say is that meeting on October 24th, that phone call on October 24th, is by no means critical to the evidence, by no means critical to proving Donald Trump's guilt. If anything, it only goes to Michael Cohen's credibility, which is significant. It's important. The jury has to credit him, or at least credit certain things that he says. And we'll see again how he continues on cross, and more importantly, what he says on redirect. Because cross-examination, there's mostly yes or no answers. You ask what's called leading questions. So you'll say things, if you're a good, skilled cross-examiner, you'll say things like, isn't it true that, isn't it true that you hate Donald Trump? Yes. Isn't it true that you made lots of money off of your books and podcasts? Yes. Things like that. Like you say that you ask the question to kind of make a statement that requires them to say yes or no. You don't want them to talk and explain things. I mean, certainly they do, but that's what you try. That's the goal of cross-examination. On direct examination is when you ask open-ended questions and you say, so tell us about that phone call. What was it about? That kind of stuff. You ask open-ended questions, and you're not allowed to ask leading questions. And certainly if the opposing counsel makes an objection, it will be sustained based on leading. So I think redirect will be key to see what his explanation is for this. Was it a mistake? Was it, did he forget? Was it about both things, not only one thing? So it'll be interesting to see how he does and what the jury thinks of him, because in the end, it's all about the jury. It's all about those 12 people who are sitting there who will determine one way or another whether Donald Trump is guilty of the 34 counts of falsifying a business record beyond a reasonable doubt. Those are the only people who matter, and it's what they think that matters. But I think there's so much other evidence. I mean, first of all, there's no doubt a crime occurred. As I said, Michael Cohen was already prosecuted for this, for the conduct surrounding these offenses, among other things, and he served time because of it. And so, and the one thing that I will say that the DA's office has proven beyond a reasonable doubt is that a crime occurred. Certainly that Alan Weisselberg and Michael Cohen committed a crime, and maybe even David Pecker. They were all part of this conspiracy. And so that's without a doubt, but it's what links it to Trump that is what's on trial here, not whether or not a crime occurred, but whether Trump was involved in the crime, or whether Michael Cohen and Alan Weisselberg and David Pecker, or whether they all went rogue and did it on their own. And so that is what the jury will determine. And the defense is saying, well, this was a lawyer. He was paying his lawyer. He had nothing to do with this, what they characterized it as. And that's not exactly true. And that's not what the jury will be charged on. It's enough if you caused a false business entry to be made, even if you didn't make the entry yourself, that is enough to be guilty of falsification of business records in New York. And in fact, there are cases. There's one called People versus Bardo. That's a case that was upheld when under this very theory that the defendant there did not make the false entry, but caused it to be made. And so it's something that if he had the same if he had the same intent, if there's also a concept called aiding and abetting, or criminal liability for the conduct of another. And it's like the example is like the getaway driver of the bank robber. You've got a bank robbery, and one guy doesn't ever even go in the bank. He doesn't hold up the bank. He doesn't do anything other than sit in the car and wait and then drive them away. He's as responsible as the guy who held the gun and the guy who went in and stole the money. He's equally as responsible, because under this theory of aiding and abetting. And so Donald Trump is also being charged under an aiding and abetting theory. So I think I think that's what the prosecution is going to argue pretty powerfully. And I think that's what the evidence shows, even potentially without Michael Cohen. I haven't said it yet because I'm still going through all the evidence. It takes time. But I'm going to decipher it myself and see, can they do it without Michael Cohen, given how this went. But there is so much corroboration in this case. While I've been going through this exercise of going through everything, going through it in chronological order, it's shocking to me how much corroboration there is. Every time Michael Cohen said there was a phone call between him and Donald Trump, they would look at the phone records, and sure enough, there was the phone call. Or between him and David Schiller, sure enough, there it was. Or text messages, etc. And so there's so much corroboration, emails, text messages. And then, of course, you've got the defendant's own words in his books, helping us understand the type of business person he is, and how he keeps his books and records, and how he looks at every invoice, and how he's so frugal and doesn't and really pinches pennies. So he would notice that $130,000 payment was tripled in order to make Michael Cohen whole. So there's a lot of powerful evidence in this case. I would not say the case is lost by any means. In fact, I think it's still quite strong. But today is a really important day to see how Michael Cohen does and how he holds up. So far, he's been doing really, really well. And that's where we are. So thank you so much for joining us every single morning and every single afternoon here at this special edition of Trump on Trial Legal AF. And I'll see everyone later today after court ends. Join us. We'll be live.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the Midas Touch newsletter at MidasTouch.com/newsletter.